Hey there, Ben, obviously. Who else? Who else would be dumb enough to hide behind a box? Anyway, I just had to bring out the box and the camcorder and stuff to talk a little bit about what I feel is kind of a little bit of oddity history that I've witnessed. And normally I don't do stuff that the internet really latches on to. I always tend to worry about it becoming instantly dated, and this probably will become instantly dated, but nonetheless, I feel compelled to talk about it a bit. Now, over the weekend, I went to see Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas, and initially, I didn't even know it was coming out. Initially, I was watching Brad Jones, the cinema snob. He does his little series of videos, midnight screenings, where he goes to a movie and then goes out to the car and he has his camcorder in the car and talks about it while it's still good and fresh in his mind. And I guess it left enough of an impact, possibly on his ratings too, that he sent his entire team to go see it. And now there's a whole bunch of midnight screenings on it. And then with that, you've had Kirk Cameron himself going out and trying to get his followers to jack up the rating on IMDb and on Rotten Tomatoes. But it seems to have had the exact inverse effect. If anything, it's been the ultimate backfiring. As far as I know, as of today, it is the all-time lowest rated movie on IMDb. Of course, that can change in a heartbeat. And I also believe it has a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And so I admit, when I first heard Brad talking about it, it piqued my curiosity. And I was like, maybe I'll have to see this. And I was just really busy and I didn't get to it, and I thought, oh, I missed it. Maybe I'll catch it on home video. And then it's been coming back around with this negative publicity and stuff, that it's been getting a bunch new publicity, of course. We're being totally redundant here. And so I figured maybe I should try and see this thing. And so I went to look for it, and as it turned out, there was apparently only one movie theater in the entire Denver metro area playing it, and it was one of those huge multiplexes, and it's in a suburb called Highlands Ranch. And there's 4 million plus people in the Denver metro area, so that should tell you just how small a showing it's getting here. And Highlands Ranch is 20 odd miles away from me each way, and so it was a bit of a trek to see it. And upon getting there, I was also just a little surprised that it was playing in Highlands Ranch. Let me backtrack for a second here, because Highlands Ranch is kind of more of a liberal yuppie neighborhood, and it's I figured it would have played somewhere more conservative and overtly religious, a place like maybe Parker. Of course, if you don't know the metro area at all, this won't mean a thing to you. So there was kind of that element of surprise there too. But I just had to see it, so I went down to Highlands Ranch, saw it, and it was in the huge 24 screen multiplex they got down there, and it was, of course, in the back of the theater in the smallest room they had, and about a dozen people showed up to see it, and I seemed to be the only one there who was seeing it more based on its current reputation. Otherwise, it seemed to be maybe not a stereotypical lot of evangelical sorts, because I think the media portrays them as these very hardcore waspy sorts, and it wasn't really like that. It was 4 people of it was an Ethiopian family, which wouldn't have been bad at all, except for it was one of those wonderful families that is one of the main reasons I don't like going to the movies usually, because they bring their kids and they let their kids scream and run around, and they make it so you can't even watch the damn movie. And then aside from that, I think there was an elderly couple, and there was a very, very poor looking couple, and that was kind of the makeup of it. As I said, I was the only one there, I think, that was there to see it more based on its reputation as opposed to maybe seeking some sort of religious belief being reinforced. And so finally getting to the movie proper, just throwing the religion out the door here for a minute, it just strictly on an artistic level was not very good. And I could kind of see why it's kind of developed this reputation that it has very quickly. And let me go off on a tangent here. It was, yes, it's supposedly the worst movie and everything, but I don't think it was. Any movie that entertains me and that gets me to watch going all the way through, even if I'm scratching my head most of the time, I can't really call it a bad movie. I can think of a lot of movies I've seen that are far, far worse. To me, a bad movie is one that fails to entertain. And this one succeeded, just not in the intended way. And indeed, on another tangent, I'm not really the sort of person who's into the whole ironically viewing movies thing. I mean, I know I love MST3K and stuff, but I find it that it's just not really a good way to go into watching a movie, to go in saying, oh, look at me, I'm this superior person who's going to go watch this terrible movie. Isn't that so ironic? More as I'm the sort of person who would rather watch a bunch of people, say college students, make their movie and fail miserably, but they were really trying. I would rather see something like that as opposed to some multi-gazillion-dollar movie that they had every resource in the world and they could have done anything and it still sucks. So if you've ever wanted to know my take on movie making, there you go. The movie itself, finally coming back around to that, was, just artistically speaking, a train wreck. It was damn near impossible to follow. Of course, the family with the screaming kids didn't help either, so I'm sure I'm going to have to see it again at some point. But it was very tough, and the editing was kind of, I don't know how to describe it, very, not choppy, but I really don't know how to say it. It doesn't follow any particular rhythm, I guess is a good way to put it. Sometimes it's just, give you whiplash, and other times they just linger way, way, way too long on some little bit of minutia. And indeed, it's an 80-minute movie, and there was some padding going on. I mean, the movie culminates with I kid you not, 6-minute hip-hop dance sequence. So the basic idea of the movie here, so you have an idea, is Kirk Cameron is at his sister's house, and she's throwing the big annual Christmas party, and everybody's having a great time and all, except Kirk's brother-in-law, and he's avoiding everybody. And according to Kirk's sister in the movie, he's just not feeling Christmas this year. And so Kirk, of course, tracks him down and finds him in his car, hiding, in his brother-in-law's car, hiding from everybody. And the most of the movie is this back and forth between his kind of sort of hipstery brother, but in a much more dorky sense, more of what seemed like an arbitrary stereotype, maybe like a deliberately dorky Elvis Costello is the best way I can describe him, without the real acid tongue. And going through kind of the usual talking points on Christmas has gotten so overly commercial and pagan symbols and so on and so forth. And then Kirk going back and trying to explain to his brother, how it really plays out in a religious sense and how it all really does come together. And of course, brother-in-law sees the light, and we have a hip-hop dance sequence, which I will give Kirk this much. He does at least make some attempt at not making it seem so jarring. It was almost kind of his little attempt at meta humor, really. I mean, I do have to give Kirk Cameron that much. He seemed to be trying something different. I don't know if he really quite understood the concept, but at least he was trying. But in the end, of course, in the greater context of things, it became... It just was one more ingredient in this stew of what the hell. And so let me give some points as to what happened in the movie and why I think, if I haven't said it yet, I think it has a pretty good chance of becoming kind of a midnight movie classic. Kirk Cameron, the movie starts cold with Kirk sitting in front of a Christmas tree with a mug of supposedly hot chocolate, and if you've ever seen Waiting for Guffman, the Christopher Guest mockumentary about community theater, and there's the bit in the play within the movie where this old guy is the narrator, and he's it's not a very well written play, and he's talking about he's going to have some beans, and oh, I love beans. Well, that's kind of what Kirk Cameron's doing here, only this time it's this kind of senseless fixation on hot chocolate. And I've never considered Kirk Cameron a particularly great actor, but this time he just really seemed to be phoning it in. But yet with this kind of crazed zeal that he's become known for over the years. Indeed, he's kind of developed a pair of crazy eyes, I've noticed. Of course, I haven't seen him in a while. I guess I don't watch enough Fox News or something. I don't know. But he's talking about Christmas, and he talks about the supposed war on Christmas a bit, and that's another thing I don't entirely agree with Kirk Cameron on. I'm pretty libertarian about that sort of thing. You want to celebrate, you want to do it publicly, fantastic. If you don't drag anybody into it. That's kind of my policy on the whole thing. But anyway, he's got his hot chocolate, and there's so obviously nothing in the cup. I mean, he didn't have to have hot chocolate in it, obviously. He could have had water or something, just so he could have something to work with, and so it'd be realistic. Instead, he's shooting his head back, taking a hit of supposedly hot chocolate, but he's not taking the time to swallow or anything. So there's strike one. And then there's kind of a definite stereotype going on. There's a couple of black people in the movie, but the lead one, so to speak, is kind of the male equivalent of Tyler Perry's character, Medea. Thank you. I'm thanking somebody. And it's kind of this, I'm afraid to try and imitate it here, because he's all kind of talking like this, and he's trying to be all sassy and sort of thing, and it doesn't really work in the movie's favor. And it's kind of weird in that they actually have a black actor who seems to be in a movie who has never, made by people who've never seen a black person, I guess is the best way to put it. And so there's another thing. And then there's this horrible ADR going on. And this may be the most confusing part of the movie. You've got that character and another person. These are supposedly people that work at an office with Kirk's brother-in-law. And they're sitting there, and they go off on this really wild conspiracy theory, which I don't think I could even quite spit out here. But you don't really know who's talking or what the point of it is, and it's kind of like watching me on Archive here, except they're holding up a mug to their faces as if it somehow enables them to talk completely privately, like I don't know, a walkie-talkie sort of thing, even though they're 4 feet apart. And it's a very strange angle that it's shot at too, and there's a lot of a very unusual shots in the movie as well. But you don't know who's talking. And so it's this insane conspiracy theory, and they're just yakking and yakking and yakking, and you don't know who it is or what's going on. And I'm pretty sure there was no hot chocolate in those cups either. So there you go. Now, I'm sure a lot of people want to hear me bash Kirk Cameron. Well, I'm going to be pretty lenient on him. I personally believe that everybody's got their opinion and they're entitled to it, and you can disagree with it. You can disagree all day. Simple as that. And so Cameron himself, for one thing, this has nothing to do with his beliefs, but he's got a beard in this movie, and it just, A, it does not look good, and B, I thought there was something wrong with the projection going on at first, because it throws you right into the movie with Kirk, and Kirk looked a bit squished, and I only realized once other people started coming into it that Kirk's a bit gaunt in this movie, so I don't know if that's cause for concern or not, or if that's just how he is, but it certainly got my attention. And his performance, as I mentioned, is not particularly good. Indeed, the acting across the board is pretty poor. And as I mentioned, the heart of the movie is Kirk sitting in his brother-in-law's SUV, and they're talking about Christmas, and how does it all fit, and how does it all work, and how is it not just one big made up thing to sell toys and trees and so forth. And here's where it becomes kind of a true evangelical movie. I mean, I've done Hell's Bells, The Dangers of Rock and Roll here on Archive, and it kind of follows that same pattern, and you have these kind of roundabout arguments, and that's I think that's one thing that's been getting a lot of press in this movie, most notably Christmas trees. And the brother-in-law is arguing that it's a pagan thing, and Kirk is saying, no, 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 no. And he tells this story about Adam and Eve in the forest, and Adam takes an apple from the tree of knowledge, eats it, and as such becomes part of him, and so he cannot put it back because that's how it works. I am not a biblical scholar. I don't know anything about this. But by his logic, Adam takes the apple from the tree of knowledge, eats it, and he has no way of giving it back. But then Jesus comes along somewhere down the line, and of course Jesus is crucified on a wooden cross. And that is, Jesus died for everyone's sins, and Adam's sin was eating the apple, so it becomes very literal, and Jesus is nailed to the cross, and as such gives the apple back to the tree of knowledge, even though the tree has been cut down to make the cross. So you've kind of killed the tree of knowledge, even by the farthest stretch of the imagination there. And so, but it's okay now because it's been given back, and now we can all have trees, and we can have it mean it can mean Christ, because Christ was crucified. I know this sounds very strange, and the whole thing just goes on and on like this. The idea of how does Santa Claus fit into Christmas? You've got Cameron discussing Saint Nick, and he's this very moody, strange, and rather violent person who, when he hears somebody blaspheme God, beats the living crap out of him. And I'm not joking there. But then Saint Nick turns around and gives toys to all the kids of the area. So and then it becomes a mythology thing, and every country, every part of the world kind of took off their own part of it, assuming that they're Christian anyway. Or maybe not. It's not really discussed. But that's the kind of logic that you're going on here. And so it does kind of fall into the Hell's Bells category there. But as I said, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. Far from it. I found it kind of entertaining, actually. And I can't really call it a truly bad movie for that reason. I have been talking for way, way too long here. So I'm going to shut up now, and I'm going to say see you later to maybe the two people that have stuck around this long. See you later.